Her boss mocked her and asked for a dance unaware she was a former pro ballerina. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It is quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let us go back to our main character. The first thing Claire Morgan notices is the silence. Not the comfortable kind. Not the calm kind. It is the kind of silence that presses against your ears when too many powerful people are waiting for someone to fail. She stands just inside the ballroom of the Whitmore Financial Annual Gala, shoulders squared, hands folded neatly in front of her black dress. It is not expensive. It is borrowed, altered at the waist the night before with careful stitches she hopes no one notices. The heels pinch her toes, but she does not shift her weight. She has learned not to. Crystal chandeliers hang above her, scattering warm light across marble floors and men in tailored suits. The room smells like polished wood, champagne, and confidence. This is not her world. It never has been. Claire is here because she has to be. She is an executive assistant at Whitmore Financial, replaceable, quiet, invisible when she does her job right. Tonight, she is supposed to stand by the edge of the room, smile when spoken to, and make sure her boss does not forget the names of donors who could buy and sell entire city blocks. Her boss, Ethan Whitmore, stands near the center of the room, tall, impeccably dressed, effortlessly commanding. At 38, Ethan is the youngest chief executive officer the firm has ever had. He built his reputation on precision and control. He does not raise his voice. He does not waste words. When he looks at people, it is usually to assess their value. Right now, he is holding a glass of bourbon and listening to a group of board members laugh at something he said. Claire watches from a careful distance, her gaze trained just below his shoulder, the way she always does. Then the music changes. The string quartet shifts into a slow waltz. The lights dim slightly. A ripple of movement passes through the crowd as couples begin to step onto the dance floor. Claire feels it before she hears it. A sharp laugh. Not cruel. Not kind either. Ethan turns his head, scanning the room, and his eyes land on her. For a brief second, Claire hopes he will look away. He does not. Well, he says, loud enough for the people around him to hear, this should be entertaining. A few heads turn. A few smiles follow his gaze. Claire feels her stomach tighten. Ethan gestures with his glass toward the dance floor. Claire, you have been standing there all night. Do you even know how to dance? The question is casual, almost playful. The implication is not. A soft chuckle ripples through the group. Not everyone laughs, but no one stops it either. Claire feels the familiar heat rise in her chest, the instinct to shrink, to apologize, to disappear. She lifts her eyes just enough to meet his. I am fine standing here, she says carefully. Ethan raises an eyebrow. Come on, it is a gala, not a funeral. He glances at the dance floor, then back at her. Unless you are afraid you might trip over those shoes. A few more laughs. Polite. Sharp. He extends his hand. Dance with me, he says. Or are you going to tell me that is not in your job description either? The room seems to lean in. Claire does not answer right away. Inside her head, 100 thoughts collide. This is her boss. This is public. This is not optional. She could refuse, but refusal would have consequences, not written ones. The quiet kind. The kind that shows up later in missed opportunities and colder emails. She exhales slowly. Her hand moves before she fully decides. All right, she says. Ethan looks surprised. Just slightly. He sets his glass down and takes her hand. His grip is confident, practiced, like someone who assumes the world will follow his lead. As he guides her toward the dance floor, Claire catches her reflection in the mirrored wall. She barely recognizes the woman staring back. Her posture is straight. Her chin is level. Her eyes are steady. Her heart is not racing from fear. It is counting. 1, 2, 3. Ethan places a hand on her back, light and dismissive, as if expecting awkwardness, maybe even embarrassment. Just follow, he murmurs. It is not complicated. Claire almost smiles. The music swells. The first step begins. And in that single moment, before anyone notices, before the room has time to react, something shifts, because Ethan Whitmore has made a mistake. And he has no idea who he is standing in front of. The music continues behind them, smooth and elegant, but Claire Morgan barely hears it anymore. She completes the first turn, then the second, her movements controlled, restrained, careful. Not yet, not here, not fully. She keeps her steps small on purpose, letting Ethan Whitmore believe exactly what he already assumes, that she is out of her depth. Inside, however, her thoughts drift far away from the glittering ballroom. They drift to a small apartment on the east side of the city. 3rd floor. No elevator. A place where the radiator knocks all night long in the winter, and the air conditioner struggles in the summer. A place where the floors creak and the neighbors argue through thin walls. That is where Claire wakes up every morning. She wakes up at 5:30, before the sun, because it gives her time to stretch without anyone watching. Because it gives her time to stand barefoot on worn hardwood floors and move her body in silence. No mirrors. No music at first. Just breath and memory. There was a time when her mornings looked very different. There was a time when her day began in a rehearsal studio with floor-to-ceiling mirrors and scuffed wooden floors dusted with rosin. A time when her muscles were sore in a way that meant progress, not exhaustion. A time when her calendar was filled with auditions, performances, and flights instead of meeting reminders and expense reports. Claire does not think about that time often. She learned not to, because thinking about it hurts more than pretending it never existed. Her life now is built on practicality, on rent paid on time, on health insurance, on staying invisible enough to survive. After the injury, after the doctors, after the words that ended everything with a polite, professional finality, she learned how quickly applause fades. The ballet company moved on. The world always does. So she took the job at Whitmore Financial. Entry level. Temporary at first. Then permanent. She told herself it was only for a year. Then 2. Then however long it took to stop feeling like she was holding her breath. She never told anyone about her past. Not her coworkers. Not her supervisors. Certainly not Ethan Whitmore. Because that life did not belong in conference rooms and glass offices. Because it invited questions she did not want to answer. Because it made people look at her differently, and Claire Morgan was tired of being looked at. Ethan guides her into another turn, still leading, still confident, still unaware. His focus drifts as he speaks quietly, his tone casual, almost bored. "Relax," he says. "You're doing fine. Just keep your steps light." 1. Claire almost laughs. Instead, she nods and lowers her gaze, playing the role expected of her. The assistant, the employee, the woman who should be grateful for the attention, even when it comes wrapped in condescension. Around them, conversations continue. Glasses clink. Someone laughs too loudly. A donor calls Ethan's name, then stops when they realize he is occupied. No one is watching closely yet. That is fine. Claire feels the floor beneath her feet, the distance between each step, the rhythm of the music counting itself in her head without effort. 1, 2, 3. Her body remembers things her mind has worked very hard to forget. She remembers discipline. She remembers balance. She remembers the feeling of being completely present inside a movement where nothing else exists. She also remembers why she does not dance anymore. The injury was not dramatic. No fall from the stage, no shocking collapse. Just a sharp pain that refused to go away, a fracture that healed badly. A doctor who spoke gently and avoided her eyes. "You could still dance," he had said. Just not like before. Not like before was not an option. So she walked away. Tonight, she promised herself, was just another reminder of why she made that choice. She needed this job. She needed the paycheck. She needed stability more than pride. More than truth. Ethan tightens his grip slightly as he guides her into another step. His patience thinning. "You look nervous," he says. "I did not mean to put you on the spot." The lie is small. Almost polite. "I am fine," Claire replies. And she means it in a way he does not understand, because this is not the hardest room she has ever stood in. This is not the most judgmental audience she has faced. This is not the first time someone has underestimated her and smiled while doing it. She has survived worse than a mocking invitation to dance. The music begins to rise, the tempo shifting just enough to matter. Claire feels it instantly. So does her body, and as she follows Ethan into the next step, something inside her settles, calm and steady, like a decision finally made. She does not look at the crowd. She does not look at him. She looks inward, and for the first time that night, Claire Morgan stops pretending she does not know exactly what she is doing. The shift is subtle at first, so subtle that only Claire feels it. The music swells again, the violins climbing higher, the rhythm tightening into something more deliberate. Around them, the dance floor begins to fill, couples moving closer together, conversations fading into background noise. Ethan still believes he is leading. He is not. Claire adjusts her grip just enough to change the center of balance between them. It is a small correction, invisible to anyone who does not understand movement. Her hand rests lightly on his shoulder, fingers relaxed, precise. Her foot slides back half an inch. Her spine aligns. Her weight settles exactly where it should be. Ethan feels it, even if he does not understand why. His step hesitates for a fraction of a second. He compensates, tightening his hold, assuming he misjudged the beat. "Careful," he murmurs. Claire does not respond. She lets the next step land cleanly, then the next. Her heels no longer wobble, the pinching pain fades, replaced by a familiar clarity. The floor might as well be the worn wood of a rehearsal studio. The chandeliers blur into imagined stage lights. Her breathing slows. 1, 2, 3. The crowd begins to notice, not consciously at first. It is not a gasp or a turn of heads. It is the way conversations falter mid-sentence. The way eyes drift, pulled by something they cannot immediately name. Claire moves with restraint, but there is intention now. Every step has purpose. Every turn is controlled. She is no longer following to avoid embarrassment. She is following because she chooses to. Ethan frowns slightly. His smile fades as he realizes something is off. She is anticipating the steps before he leads them, not rushing, not correcting him openly, simply arriving where she needs to be a moment before he expects it. "That is better," he says, attempting confidence. Claire almost smiles again. Her body remembers 1,000 corrections shouted across mirrored rooms. Lift your chin, engage your core, trust the floor, trust yourself. She remembers the discipline drilled into her muscles, the precision demanded until it became instinct. This is instinct. The music shifts again, building toward a flourish. Claire responds without thinking. Her turn is sharper now, cleaner. Her footwork tightens, each movement economical, exact. Ethan stumbles just slightly, catching himself before anyone notices. His hand presses more firmly against her back. "Claire," he says quietly, a warning in his voice. She lifts her gaze for the first time since they began. Their eyes meet. Something flickers across his face. Surprise, quickly masked by irritation. He was expecting awkwardness, maybe compliance. He was not expecting this. The space around them opens as dancers nearby instinctively give them room. Not because they are asked to, because something about the way Claire moves commands it. A woman near the edge of the floor leans toward her companion. Someone stops mid-sip of champagne. A donor tilts his head, squinting slightly, as if trying to place a familiar feeling. Claire hears none of it. She hears only the count. 1, 2, 3. Her next turn is undeniable. It is not showy. It is not exaggerated. It is simply correct in a way that cannot be faked. Her posture lengthens, her balance effortless, her transition seamless. This is not someone surviving a dance. This is someone trained for it. Ethan feels the shift fully now. His steps grow cautious. He lets her move, adjusts to her timing, tries to regain control. His expression tightens, the polished confidence cracking at the edges. "What did you say your background was?" he asks under his breath. Claire does not answer, because the answer is already written in her movement. The music crests, the moment approaching where dancers either falter or rise. Claire rises. She executes the turn cleanly, perfectly centered, finishing with a stillness that draws the eye like a held breath. The silence that follows is not complete, but it is heavy. People are watching now, not laughing, not whispering, Watching, Ethan releases her hand as the music softens, his grip loosening as if he no longer trusts it. He looks at her as though seeing her for the first time, truly seeing her, and not liking what that realization suggests. Claire lowers her eyes again, composure returning to her face like armor. She steps back half a pace, returning to the role she knows how to play. The assistant, the employee. But the room has changed, and whether Ethan Whitmore understands it yet or not, the mistake he made moments ago has already begun to echo through the crowd. The applause does not come immediately. That is what makes it worse. The music fades, the final note dissolving into the air, and for a brief, suspended moment, the room does not know how to respond. It is as if everyone is waiting for permission to acknowledge what they just witnessed. Claire stands still, hands relaxed at her sides, her breathing steady. She feels the familiar calm settle over her, the quiet that always followed a clean finish. She does not look up. She does not seek validation. She has learned what happens when you do. Ethan Whitmore clears his throat. The sound cuts through the silence sharper than applause ever could. "Well," he says, forcing a smile that does not reach his eyes. "I did not expect that." A few people laugh. Not because it is funny, but because laughter feels safer than honesty. Claire takes a small step back, creating space between them. The movement is deliberate, respectful, professional. She offers a polite nod, the kind she has practiced for years. "Thank you for the dance," she says. Her voice is calm, neutral, exactly what it should be. Ethan studies her face, searching for something he can name. Embarrassment, pride, defiance. He finds none of it. That unsettles him more than the misstep on the floor ever could. "You move well," he says slowly. "Where did you learn that?" Around them, people lean in without meaning to. The question hangs in the air, heavier than it should. Claire feels it then. The familiar tightening in her chest, the instinct to deflect, to minimize, to turn truth into something small enough not to disturb anyone. She does not answer. Instead, she inclines her head again and steps away, melting back toward the edge of the room where she belongs. The reaction is immediate. A woman near the bar whispers something to her companion. A man in a dark suit lifts his eyebrows, watching Claire retreat with new interest. Someone murmurs Ethan's name, a question threaded through it. Ethan turns, suddenly aware that he is no longer the center of attention. He does not like that. "Claire," he calls, sharper this time. She pauses but does not turn around. "Yes, sir?" There it is. The title. The distance. The boundary re-established in a single word. Ethan hesitates. He is used to control, to being followed without question. He is not used to losing the upper hand in front of donors, board members, and peers who will remember this moment far longer than he would like. "Stay," he says. "We are not finished yet." Claire turns slowly. Her expression is composed, but her eyes are guarded now. Whatever openness the music drew out of her has already retreated, tucked away behind years of caution. "Of course," she replies. She takes her place beside him again, not as a dancer, but as an assistant. Hands folded, posture neutrale, invisible, but the room refuses to see her that way anymore. A silver-haired woman approaches, her gaze warm and curious. "That was beautiful," she says to Claire. "You have such control." "Thank you," Claire answers, her smile polite but brief. "Have you danced long?" the woman asks. Ethan watches closely now, his jaw tight. Claire meets the woman's eyes, then glances at Ethan. Just for a moment. Not challenging, not apologetic, simply aware. "I used to," she says. The simplicity of the answer lands harder than a speech ever could. "Used to." Before Ethan can ask anything else, another guest joins them, then another. The conversation shifts, but the undercurrent remains. Eyes drift toward Claire. Whispers follow her movements. Ethan stands slightly apart, listening, recalibrating. He realizes something then. Slow and unwelcome. Whatever Claire Morgan was before tonight, whatever assumptions he made about her place, her limits, her worth, no longer fit. The role he assigned her has cracked, and the room has noticed. And in a world built on perception, that crack matters. Claire feels it too. The shift in the air. The way she is no longer dismissed, but observed. She does not know whether that will cost her or save her yet. All she knows is that the mistake Ethan Whitmore made is no longer contained. It has begun to spread. The room does not return to normal. That is the first thing Claire notices. Even as the conversations resume and the servers move through the crowd with trays of champagne, something has shifted beneath the surface. The air feels tighter, charged with curiosity that no one is willing to name out loud. Claire stands beside Ethan Whitmore, tablet held lightly in her hands, posture composed. From the outside, she looks exactly as she did before. The efficient assistant, the quiet presence, the woman meant to blend into the background, but the background has moved. "Claire," Ethan says again, his voice lower now, controlled. "Walk with me. It is not a request." She nods once and follows as he steps away from the cluster of guests, guiding them toward the far side of the ballroom where the noise fades just enough to allow a private conversation. His stride is brisk, his shoulders rigid. "You did not mention any of that on your resume," he says without preamble. Claire keeps her eyes forward. "You did not ask." The response is calm, honest. It lands harder than defiance ever could. Ethan stops walking. She stops with him. For a moment, he studies her the way he studies financial statements and acquisition targets, as if enough scrutiny might reveal the explanation he wants. The problem is that Claire Morgan does not fit neatly into any category he understands. "What exactly did you used to do?" he asks. The words are clipped, but there is something else beneath them now. Not mockery, not humor, uncertainty. Claire exhales slowly. This is the moment she has avoided for years. The moment where truth demands space, even if it disrupts everything around it. She considers deflecting again, offering something vague and harmless. Instead, she answers plainly. "I was a professional ballerina," she says. "For 11 years. Ethan blinks. Once. Then again. "That is not possible," he says, more reflex than accusation. "You are an assistant." The statement hangs between them, exposing more about him than he intended. Claire meets his gaze steadily. Both things can be true. A laugh rises nearby, sharp and bright. Someone has overheard. Before Ethan can respond, a voice cuts in from behind them. "Did you say ballerina?" They turn to see Margaret Caldwell, a prominent patron of the arts and one of the firm's largest donors. Her silver hair is swept into an elegant twist, her eyes sharp with interest. "I thought I recognized that control," Margaret continues, her gaze fixed on Claire. "The turnout, the stillness at the end. You do not forget that kind of training." Claire inclines her head politely. "You have a good eye." Margaret smiles. "I chaired the board of the Northbrook Ballet Foundation for 15 years. Ethan's expression tightens. Margaret turns to him, amused. "You did not know?" "No," Ethan replies shortly. "Well," Margaret says, returning her attention to Claire, "you danced like someone who was taught not just to move, but to listen to music with her entire body." Claire feels the familiar mix of warmth and grief stir in her chest. "Thank you," she says. Margaret glances between them. "You should be proud of her," she adds to Ethan. "That level of discipline does not disappear just because life takes a different turn." "Would." She drifts back into the crowd, leaving silence in her wake. Ethan exhales sharply. "You embarrassed me," he says. The words come out before he can soften them. Claire does not flinch. "I did not intend to," she replies. "I followed your lead." He opens his mouth, then closes it again. The truth of that statement settles uncomfortably. Around them, the gala continues. But Ethan Whitmore feels the ground shifting beneath his carefully constructed authority. He realizes that the laughter from earlier, the casual challenge, the assumption of superiority, have all been witnessed by people who matter. And they have all seen how wrong he was. Claire feels it too. The weight of being seen. Of having something she tried to bury pulled into the light without her permission. She does not know what it will cost her yet. But she knows one thing with certainty. The moment on the dance floor was not a performance. It was the truth. And once the truth enters a room like this, it does not leave quietly. The gala begins to thin as the evening wears on. Guests drift toward the exits in small clusters, their laughter softer now, their goodbyes stretched thin with promises that may or may not be kept. The string quartet returns to lighter music, something forgettable, something safe. Claire Morgan remains near the edge of the ballroom, exactly where she has positioned herself for most of the night. She feels exposed in a way she has not felt in years. Not because she danced, not because people watched, but because people understood, because they saw something in her that did not belong to this room, this job, this version of her life. She focuses on practical things, collecting empty glasses, checking the schedule for Ethan Whitmore's final conversations, making sure the car is ready. Normal tasks, familiar ground. Ethan stands a few feet away, speaking with a board member, but his attention keeps drifting back to her. She notices it without looking. The shift in his presence, the hesitation that was not there before. When the conversation ends, he approaches her slowly. "Claire," he says, quieter than before. "You can go home. I will finish the rest myself." The words are almost generous. Almost. She meets his eyes. "Are you sure?" "Yes," he replies. "You have done enough for one night." Airport. The phrase lands wrong, but she does not challenge it. She nods once, professional as always. "Good night, sir." She turns away before he can say anything else. The drive home feels longer than usual. The city lights blur past the car window as Claire leans her head back against the seat, exhaustion settling into her bones. Not the physical exhaustion she knows from rehearsals and performances, but something heavier, emotional weight. At her apartment, she kicks off her heels by the door and stands barefoot on the cool floor. The silence greets her like an old friend. She moves through the small space, changing out of the borrowed dress, folding it carefully. She tells herself she did what she had to do. She tells herself it is over, but she knows better. The next morning, the office feels different. Not loud, not openly hostile, just different. Claire steps out of the elevator and feels eyes on her immediately. Conversations pause. Keyboards slow. Someone offers a smile that lingers a moment too long. She takes her seat at her desk, heart steady, posture composed. An email notification flashes on her screen. From Ethan Whitmore. Subject line: "Come to my office." No punctuation. No explanation. She inhales slowly and stands. His office is flooded with morning light. Glass walls reflecting the city beyond. Ethan stands by the window, hands in his pockets, his back to the door. "Close it," he says without turning. She does. For a moment, neither of them speaks. "I watched the security footage," Ethan says finally. "The dance." Claire does not react. "You were holding back," he continues. "At the beginning." "Yes," she answers simply. He turns to face her, frustration etched across his features. "Why?" he asks. "Why not tell me who you were?" Claire meets his gaze, her voice steady. "Because it was not relevant to my job," she says. "Because it would not have changed how you saw me. And because every time I told someone before, they stopped seeing who I am now." The honesty hangs between them, heavy and unguarded. Ethan looks away. For the first time since she met him, he does not have a response ready. And Claire realizes something then. The reveal did not happen on the dance floor. It happened here, in the quiet after, in the space where assumptions collapse and nothing replaces them yet. Whatever comes next, she knows this much: she will not be invisible again. The meeting does not end with an apology. That is what Claire notices first. Ethan Whitmore stands behind his desk, arms crossed, jaw tight, the city skyline reflected in the glass behind him like a reminder of everything he controls. The silence stretches longer than it should, heavy with things neither of them wants to say. "You put me in a difficult position," he says finally. Claire remains standing where she is, hands relaxed at her sides. She does not apologize. She does not argue. "I did my job," she replies. "I supported you at the event. I followed your instructions." "That is not what I mean." Ethan snaps, then catches himself. He exhales sharply. "People are talking. Donors. Board members. They have questions." Claire nods once. "They usually do." His eyes narrow. "Do not be flippant." She meets his gaze, steady and unyielding. "I am not." "Ribe." The tension sharpens. Ethan circles his desk slowly, as if movement might help him regain control of the conversation. "You understand how this looks, do you not?" he says. An assistant with a background like that, hidden away, suddenly revealed in front of people who expect transparency from this firm. "Transparency about what?" Claire asks quietly. "My past?" "Yes," he replies without hesitation. "Anything that could affect perception." Claire feels something settle inside her then, cold and clear. My past does not affect my competence, she says. It does not change my work ethic. And it does not belong to this company. Ethan stops pacing. You do not get to decide that. The words land hard. Claire takes a breath, slow and deliberate. She has had this conversation before, in different rooms, with different people who believed they had a right to define her. I do, she says, because I am the one who lived it. Wear herself. For a moment, Ethan looks genuinely taken aback. He is not used to resistance, especially not from someone he categorized long ago as safe and compliant. This firm cannot afford distractions, he says. I built my career on control, on predictability, and I built mine on discipline, Claire answers. He studies her, searching for weakness. He does not find it. What do you want? He asks. The question surprises them both. Claire considers it carefully. I want to keep my job, she says. I want to be evaluated on my performance, not my biography. And I want this to end here. Ethan laughs once, short and humorless. You think it is that simple? I think it should be, she replies. The silence returns, thicker than before. Ethan turns toward the window, staring out at the city. When he speaks again, his voice is lower, edged with something that sounds like resentment. You made me look small last night. Claire does not deny it. I did not intend to, she says. But I will not apologize for being good at something. He nods slowly, as if acknowledging a truth he does not like. You may go, he says at last. We will revisit this later. Later. The word echoes as Claire leaves the office. Back at her desk, she feels the weight of the confrontation settle over her. Colleagues glance her way, pretending not to. Whispers trail behind closed doors. The familiar fear creeps in, the one she thought she left behind with her old life. Had she misjudged everything? At lunchtime, she steps outside alone, the city air cool against her face. She walks without direction, letting the noise ground her. She thinks about the studio floors she used to sweep, the mirrors she avoided after the injury, the decision to disappear rather than fight. She realizes something then. Last night was not the end of a secret. It was the beginning of a test. And Ethan Whitmore is not the only one being tested. The change does not come with an announcement. It comes quietly, the way real corrections often do. 3 days pass after the meeting in Ethan Whitmore's office. 3 days where Claire does her work without interruption. She arrives on time. She leaves on time. She keeps her head down and her focus sharp. The whispers fade, replaced by routine. On the 4th morning, an email appears in her inbox. From Ethan Whitmore. Subject line: Friday afternoon. No context. No explanation. At 4 o'clock, his assistant from legal appears at Claire's desk and asks her to bring her calendar and follow her to the executive conference room. Claire does not ask why. The room is different from Ethan's office. No glass walls, no city view, just a long table, leather chairs, and a screen at the far end. Ethan stands near the window, not at the head of the table. 2 other people are present, one from human resources, one from corporate strategy. Have a seat, Ethan says. Claire sits. Ethan does not look at her right away. He activates the screen. A presentation appears. Clean. Minimal. Professional. Title slide. Internal Talent Review Initiative. Claire blinks once. We have been evaluating inefficiencies in how we identify and retain high-discipline performers. Ethan begins. His tone is formal, controlled. The voice he uses with the board. Specifically, individuals whose skill sets extend beyond their current roles. He clicks to the next slide. Transferable skills. Pressure performance. Pattern recognition. Discipline under scrutiny. Claire feels something tighten in her chest. This firm has always valued pedigree, Ethan continues. Degrees. Titles. Linear paths. That approach has blind spots. He pauses, then turns to face her. I have blind spots. The admission is brief, uncomfortable, real. We are creating a new internal position, he says. Operations Liaison for Executive Strategy. It will report directly to me. It requires someone who understands control, timing, nonverbal dynamics, and decision-making under observation. Claire understands then. This is not a promotion wrapped in praise. This is a correction. I am offering you the role, Ethan says. If you want it. The human resources representative slides a folder across the table. Claire does not reach for it immediately. And if I say no? She asks. Ethan nods once. Then nothing changes. No penalty, no record. The choice is real. Claire opens the folder. The role is not symbolic. The responsibilities are defined. The salary is adjusted. The expectations are clear. No mention of her past. No footnotes. No spectacle. Just trust. Offered in a language Ethan understands. Structure. Action. This is not an apology. Ethan adds quietly. It is accountability. Mess. Claire meets his gaze. I accept, she says. The relief on his face is subtle, but it is there. The following week, the announcement goes out internally. Short, professional, no story attached. Claire Morgan transitions into her new role. There are no whispers this time, only recalibration. On Friday evening, as the office empties, Claire remains at her desk, reviewing a briefing. Ethan stops by on his way out. You were right, he says, about being evaluated on performance. Mad it, she looks up. And you were right, she replies. About control. They share a quiet understanding, not forgiveness. Respect. As Claire shuts down her computer and steps into the hallway, she feels something unfamiliar but welcome, not triumph. Alignment. The mistake that began on a dance floor did not end with embarrassment. It ended with action. And for the first time in years, Claire Morgan is not stepping back into the shadows. She is stepping forward, on her own terms. The months that follow are quiet in the way real change often is. There is no dramatic announcement, no applause, no second dance. Claire Morgan settles into her new role with the same discipline she once brought to rehearsal rooms and early morning studios. She listens more than she speaks. She observes patterns others miss. She anticipates tension before it surfaces and adjusts course before meetings derail. People begin to notice, not because she demands attention, but because things begin to work better when she is in the room. Ethan Whitmore notices too. Their interactions change, not suddenly, but deliberately. He no longer speaks over her. He asks questions and waits for answers. He trusts her instincts, even when they challenge his own. The power dynamic does not reverse. It evens out. One evening, long after most of the office has emptied, Claire stands alone in the conference room, reviewing a final report. The city outside glows softly through the windows. Ethan appears at the door, jacket over his arm. You stayed late again, he says. So did you, she replies, without looking up. He steps inside, leaning against the table. I received confirmation today, he says. The board approved the new operational framework. Your recommendations held. Claire nods. Good. He hesitates, then adds, you changed how I see things here. She meets his gaze calmly. That was never my goal. They came likes to me. I know, he says. That is why it matters. They stand in silence for a moment, the hum of the city filling the space between them. I never asked, Ethan says finally. Do you miss it? Claire understands immediately what he means. She considers the question carefully. I miss who I was, she answers. Not where I stood, he nods, accepting that. As she leaves the building later that night, Claire pauses outside, breathing in the cool air. Her reflection in the glass looks different now. Not softer, not harder, clearer. She thinks back to the moment on the dance floor, the laughter, the challenge, the mistake that set everything in motion. A moment meant to diminish her that instead revealed her. It was never about proving she was extraordinary. It was about refusing to be invisible. Claire walks down the street with steady steps, her posture relaxed, her future no longer something she hides from. She does not know exactly where this path will lead, but she knows it will be hers. And sometimes, the most powerful turning points begin not with triumph, but with a simple misunderstanding that forces the truth into the light. If this story moved you, remember to like, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs a reminder that being underestimated is not the end. Sometimes, it is the beginning.